They crushed it like it was made of matchsticks, you know? 5 years, 5 whole years I spent building that barn. Every foundation stone, I set it myself, cut the timber with my own saw, hammered in thousands of nails till my hands bled and grew rough. It was more than just a building. That barn was the heart of my place, shelter for my herd, the proof I'd finally built something real on my 10-acre patch of Texas dirt. And in the end, it took maybe 5 minutes for some yellow excavator to turn all that into a heap of broken wood. I stood there, boots sunk in the mud, watching my cattle scatter, panicked, eyes wide, bellowing for safety that just didn't exist anymore. And standing next to that machine, looking like she'd just saved humanity from a great evil, was Victoria Sterling. Now, Victoria, she was the president of the Oak Haven Heights Homeowners Association, the luxury resort subdivision that popped up next to my ranch like a patch of poison ivy. She was dressed in a white linen pantsuit, probably cost more than my pickup, and she was smiling. Well, not really smiling, more like wearing the smug grin of a conqueror. She figured that because she had money, lawyers, and a whole neighborhood of retired CEOs, she could just rewrite the landscape. That my history, my hard work, could be erased because it didn't fit her idea of what the view ought to be. She honestly believed she'd won. But folks like Victoria, they love building castles on foundations they don't understand. She saw a rancher in dirty jeans and thought I was simple. She had no clue I'd spent 15 years as a municipal water systems engineer before I ever laid eyes on this land. Hell, I designed the very water system her precious little community runs on. And she sure didn't know she'd just declared war on the one man who literally held the keys to the drain. If you think you've seen petty revenge, buckle up. When you destroy a man's livelihood, you don't get to whine when he finally pulls the plug on your paradise. Name's Jack Sullivan, Sully to most. And this is the story of how I turn a luxury lakeside wedding into the wildest mud wrestling match the county's ever seen, all by the book, cool as you please, right there in front of everyone. Let's back up a minute. 8 years ago, I bought the Double S Ranch at a foreclosure sale, cheap because nobody else wanted it. Too rocky, too hilly for farming, but to me it was perfect. I cleared the brush, ran my own fence line, brought in 30 head of cattle. Honest work, quiet mornings, until Oak Haven Heights showed up. First came the noise, bulldozers, pile drivers, beep 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 of those reverse alarms at dawn. Then the houses, 200 modern farmhouses that wouldn't know a real farm if it bit them. $1,000,000 apiece. Then came the people, the kind who love the idea of Texas, but dial 911 if they get a whiff of manure. They wanted the dream, not the dirt. And leading them all, in her little linen uniform, was Victoria Sterling. Her big vision was to turn Oak Haven into a 5-star resort. Fountains, mandatory lawn services, and her crown jewel, a sparkling artificial lake right on my property line. I'll admit it was pretty, but fake as a politician's promise. Water pumped from the county reservoir, dyed blue to look like the Caribbean. Victoria hated me from day one. Hated my truck, hated my fence, but nothing compared to her hatred for my barn. It was a working barn, weathered wood, tin roof, hay bales, animals, real work, real smells. From her porch, it ruined the sunset, or so she said. That Monday morning started like any other. Up at 5:30, coffee on the porch, sunrise just cresting the ridge. I was thinking about expanding the south pasture when I heard it, rumbling louder than the usual construction. But it wasn't coming from their side, it was coming from mine. I ran outside, just in time to see a massive excavator rolling through my back gate, which had been cut wide open, heading straight for my barn. "Hey," I yelled, sprinting. "What the hell are you doing?" The operator, he looked bored, just wanted to get paid, handed me a slip of paper through the cab window. "County order," he grunted. "Structure deemed a hazard. Immediate abatement required." County letterhead. Sure, but the complainant? Victoria Sterling. It cited structural instability, fire risk, aesthetic blight. Dated 3 weeks ago. I'd never seen it before, never had a hearing, no notice, nothing. "You can't do this," I shouted. "I have animals in there." "Animals are out in the paddock," the operator muttered. I checked. He was right. Before I could climb up there and wring his neck, a voice cut through the noise. "Good morning, mister." Sullivan. I turned, Victoria, standing there by my cut fence, two security guards flanking her. Immaculate, untouchable. What is this? I demanded, waving the order. You can't just tear down my barn. Oh, I think you'll find we can, she said, smooth as silk. The county agrees this shack is a danger to the community. We're just helping enforce the code. Think of it as a neighborhood improvement project. This is my livelihood, Victoria. It's almost winter. Where am I supposed to put the feed? Where do the calves go? She just shrugged. Sounds like a management problem. Maybe you should have thought about that before building a slum next to a luxury estate. She signaled. The excavator roared to life. I yelled no and stepped forward, but the guards blocked me. I had to watch as the bucket slammed into my barn. Wood cracked like gunfire. 5 years of my sweat and pride crumbling in seconds. My cattle were screaming, huddled together, terrified. Victoria wasn't even looking at the barn. She was watching me, grinning. Resort atmosphere, Mr. Sullivan, she said, as if she was blessing me with wisdom. We have to maintain standards. I didn't say another word, didn't fight. I just stood there and let that moment burn into my memory. The look on her face, the sound of my life coming apart. She thought she'd broken me. She had no idea I knew exactly where every water valve was buried around here. The weeks after were pure hell. 5 cattle dead in 48 hours. Stress, cold, too many packed together without shelter. I spent nights in my truck by the paddock, fighting off coyotes, trying to keep my remaining herd safe. I had to sell off another 10 head at auction, pennies on the dollar. My wallet was bleeding, my spirit wasn't far behind, and Victoria just kept coming. Rumors started up in town. Suddenly folks I'd known for years were looking at me sideways. Found out why from my buddy Boone, the town plumber, the guy who knows everybody's dirty laundry, sometimes literally. Sully, he says one evening, both of us sitting on my porch with a beer, you know what she's telling folks? That you're some kind of eco-terrorist. That your cattle runoff is poisoning the lake. That you're trying to sabotage Oak Haven on purpose. I just shook my head. That's impossible, Boone. My land's downhill from the lake. Water doesn't flow uphill. Boone shrugged. Doesn't matter. She called a meeting. They voted to cut off your access to the community well. That one was meant to finish me off. My private well's shallow. Always relied on a shared agreement with the county. Same aquifer as Oak Haven, grandfathered in before the HOA. Suddenly, my taps ran dry. I was hauling water in a borrowed tanker, driving 50 miles round trip every couple of days just to keep what was left of my herd alive. Then came the fines, illegal dumping, noise violations, dust pollution, paperwork up to my ears, debt piling up. No lawyer in town would touch it. Her husband's a big shot at the biggest firm in Austin, and people are scared of her. I was broke, alone, and more furious than I've ever been. Boone, that night, looks at the ruins of my barn and says real quiet, "You know, Sully, that lake of hers? It ain't natural." "I know," I said. "It's pumped." He grins. "Pumped from the county reservoir. Same system you helped install, right?" Back in 14, my brain, fogged by anger and exhaustion, suddenly started to wake up. "The emergency bypass," I whispered. Boone nodded. "Technically, Sully, aren't you still certified as a Level 4 systems operator for the county?" I dug on my wallet. Sure enough, my card was still good for 6 more months. "What's happening at Oak Haven this weekend?" I asked. Boone's eyes lit up. "Oh, it's a big one. Victoria's daughter's wedding, Lakeside, Saturday. 300 guests. Magazines are coming. A wedding. Lakeside." I looked over at that shimmering fake blue water and said, "I think the county infrastructure needs a little mandatory emergency test." Next 3 days, we played it by the book, just doing some reconnaissance. No laws broken. Just checking safety equipment, right? The drainage control station was a plain concrete shed, tucked behind a little oak grove on county land. Inside, a valve big as a pizza. Turn it, and it opens the gates at the bottom of the lake, designed to empty the thing in case of dam failure or contamination. 50 million gallons, gone in 3 hours. Nobody had checked it in 2 years, a violation itself. Saturday, the weather was perfect, blue sky, 75 degrees. From my property, I could see the setup, huge white tents, flowers everywhere, a string quartet warming up, the altar right at the water's edge. There was Victoria, looking triumphant, barking orders, her dress sparkling like she'd been dipped in gold. I parked my truck behind the Oaks at 1 p.m., Boone with me, clipboard in hand, high-vis vest. We unlocked the shed. My key still worked. Ceremony starts at 2:30, Boone says. If we crack the valve at 2:30, physics takes care of the rest. The pressure at the bottom of that lake, once it starts to drain, it moves fast. So we waited. I sipped coffee, thinking about my ruined barn, my shivering cows. At 2:30 sharp, as the wedding march played in the distance, I grabbed that steel valve and cranked. Years of disuse made it groan, but finally it turned, a deep, echoing rumble from underground. The water started to move. We stepped out to the treeline to watch. At first, nothing. The bride walked down the aisle, beautiful kid. Not her fault her mom's a nightmare. The guests all grinning, basking in luxury. At 2:50, I saw Victoria talking into her headset, gesturing at the water. Maintenance guys came running, firing up these massive pumps, trying to fill the lake back up. Boone laughed. The intake's at the bottom. They're just making it worse. Creating suction, speeding up the drain. By 3:15, the ceremony's winding down, and now there's a swirling whirlpool in the middle of the lake. It sounded like a bathtub draining, loud, slurping, echoing off the hills. The water was dropping by the foot, revealing the truth. Thick, black mud, trash, old tires, even a rusted shopping cart. At 3:30, the smell hit them, rotting algae, stagnant muck. Guests started holding their noses. The bride turned and screamed. The backdrop for her photos was now a mud pit. By 4 o'clock, the lake was gone, just a crater of sludge. That's when I walked down. No sneaking, just boots crunching down the main path, Boone behind me with his clipboard. Chaos everywhere, guests shouting, mother of the groom crying, Victoria screaming at her crew. Fix it. Put the water back. Then she spotted me. Her face went red as her dress. She came storming over, gold dress trailing in the dirt. You did this. I know you did. 300 people watched as she lost it. You sabotaged my daughter's wedding, you terrorist. Afternoon, Victoria, I said, calm as you please. Looks like you're having some plumbing issues. I'm calling the sheriff, she screeched. You're going to jail. Go ahead, I said. And call the county commissioner, too. Ask them about permit 402B, emergency drainage maintenance. She froze. What? I pulled out my certification card and the paperwork. I'm a certified operator, Victoria. County says there's got to be a flush every 5 years. Pressure readings were dangerous. I was just doing my civic duty. During my daughter's wedding, she hissed. Safety doesn't wait for nuptials, just like demolition crews don't wait for winter. I shot back. That's when she realized she'd lost. I'd used her own weapon, red tape, against her. You destroyed my lake, she whispered. Drain a reservoir, I corrected. And by the way, looks like you haven't kept up environmental standards. That sludge looks toxic. Bet the EPA would love a sample. Boone chimed in. Inspection complete, drainage successful. We need to keep it empty for, 6 months by regulation. Victoria collapsed, literally right into a chair. Her guests were fleeing, the bride sobbing in the limo, photographers snapping shots of the mud pit. The fallout was spectacular. The wedding video went viral. Drain the Mud trended for days. But the real damage? Legal. County found out the HOA never had a permit for a lake that size. They'd been siphoning water illegally for years. The fines? Over $100,000. The HOA was bankrupt in a week. Oak Haven's property values tanked, and the residents turned on Victoria like wolves. She got sued for mismanagement, resigned in disgrace, sold her house at a loss, and left town in the night. Me? The county actually paid me a check for $150,000 for emergency consulting. Their way of saying sorry for letting her bulldoze my barn. I rebuilt, bigger, better, steel reinforced. Bought more cattle. Best part? 6 months later, Victoria's house sat empty. I made a lowball cash offer. The bank took it. I didn't move in. Turn it into my ranch office. Ripped out her roses, planted wildflowers. That empty lake bed? Turns out, after it dried out, the old silt made it the best pasture in the county. My cattle graze there now, every morning. So every sunrise, I drink coffee on the porch of what used to be Victoria Sterling's million-dollar mansion, watching my herd graze where her lake used to be. Hung a new sign out front, Redford Cattle Ranch, where justice flows. And you know what? The view is perfect. So let me ask, have you ever watched an HOA get completely dismantled? Tell me your story in the comments. If you enjoyed watching a tyrant get flushed, hit that like button and subscribe. Stay grounded, folks, and always keep your valves greased.